There's a general tendency when you go on location to say, listen, you don't go within the expectation. And I've always said I go with the highest expectation, knowing that whatever the situation or the lighting looks like, I'm sure, absolutely sure, there's a picture to be made everywhere. You can't get in your car and come out as a landscape photographer and say, you're gonna have a bad day. Rain or shine. That principle that I normally have really came into play today. Coming out here, having a shot preconceived in my head, and then actually adjusting and coming out or walking away with a shot that I'm happy with, I couldn't ask for anything more. And I think because I have that mindset, it continues to work for me, and I'm happy about that. You don't tell the landscape to pose. The landscape is saying, listen, I've been here waiting for you, I'm here, let's do something. I'm Kreyg Scott, I'm a landscape photographer. We're at Monadam. This is one of my backyard playgrounds. Jamaican landscape photography. You have the landscape at your doorstep. You can't ask for anything more. Then we're talking about light. It's coming from behind the mountain, it's coming across, and so we're getting the perfect lighting, not at the high mountain range, but on the lower range, exactly at the viewpoint, where the light was perfect in between. The light is not always going to be perfect at the point where the sun rises or sets. Just above the tree line, that was the 6% low clouds. The 90% high clouds were those high clouds that came up above the low cloud, and as the sun began to rise above the horizon, before it crests the mountain, we got that amazing light, and it was just beautiful. I've always been fascinated with photography from an early age. And my mother always had a camera, and we've always had a photographer come by and photograph our events. So I was always fascinated with seeing someone walking around with a camera and taking pictures, and then seeing the images afterwards. I wanted to try that for myself. I said to her one day, I asked her for her camera, and willingly she let me borrow it initially. And I started taking pictures at school, Like I didn't know anything about exposure triangle or anything like that, as a kid. But he would show me the meter and tell me always have the meter as close to the center as possible on the 0 mark. So that was what I knew. And I started taking pictures of everything I could take a picture of. Kids in my class, cars that came to pick up the kids after school, anything I could take a photograph of. We had a career day, where they asked the kids what you want to be when you grow. And I said, I want to be a photographer. And she told my mother. And when I went home, my mother said to me, and not lightly putting it, if, I guess Jamaican term, if, you're idiot or, what you want to do, you want to be a photographer, when you make any money. And then she kind of knocked that into my head. So as a child, they're telling you that I just lost all drive with a camera from there. Having something taken away from you that you really want is like, as a child, I guess, having Christmas come and you don't get anything, So it wasn't nice, I didn't enjoy it, but you can't accept it because you don't know any better as a child. You just think that your parents want the best for you. We as human beings tend to say, if things don't go our way, we tend to be discouraged. It's a serious situation, regardless of how, and I wouldn't say unfavorable or not as I would have wanted it. And you just take it and, as we say, you just run with it. Or, as my wife would say, you just work with it. You just work with it and make something out of it. And you have that peace of mind. I tell you, you can't get better than that. As a landscape photographer, shooting in Jamaica, every location is like a familiar friend. Once you've shot there before, you come back and you say, hey, well, you know what we're doing today? And you come out and the sun says, yeah, all right, here we're going to go. We're going to have a lot of overcast. We're going to have heavy overcast. All right, cool. We're going to have some backlighting. We're going to have some side lighting. We're going to have something else, but we're going to make something work today. So fast forward to working, having a job, and then later on, I picked up a camera again. This time not so much to shoot landscapes, but because I was now shooting, taking pictures of myself with the woman who would later become my wife. And then I started taking more and more pictures. And then I said, okay, well, I got a camera. How am I going to make a little bit extra with it? So I started shooting stock. A friend of mine said, you know, why don't you do landscape photography? And I kind of threw it off and said, yeah, but it's not going to pay me. So what am I going to do with this? And he kept riding me, you know, like Zorro on Tornado. So he was always on my back, day and night. Do landscape, you should really do landscapes. And I kept throwing it off and saying, listen, I don't have time for that. It's not going to pay me. And then one day we head out and took some images of landscape. And then it was really relaxing. It wasn't the stress of doing the stock. It wasn't this, doing an event or anything. It's just out there with the landscape, taking a picture. Came back, processed it, and blue sky, lovely. So that feeling of the waves going over the log and everything really grabbed me. I came back and processed it and said to him, wow, look at this. And then now I started focusing, finding out more about landscape and started shooting more landscape until it got to the point where I didn't shoot stock anymore. But it gave me a peace of mind. And so I stuck with that, and that's why I still do it to this very day. To answer the question, why I shoot landscape photography, is because there's something in the landscape that calls me to come out there and shoot it. And that's why I go there. It's not for the money. It's not to sell the image. It's not to appeal to anybody necessarily. And it gives me a sense of joy. And because there's something in me to share the joy that I have with other people, I just want people to experience the same thing. So I shoot and I share what I'm shooting, what it is, what you're missing, and maybe you can go there and do the same thing yourself. When you come out in the landscape, you don't tell the landscape to pose. The landscape is saying, listen, I've been here waiting for you. I'm here. Let's do something. Yeah? As I said, as in the wee hours of the morning, when you come out here and you shoot, there's always something. That's the only thing that's constant. The change in the water. The clouds. The lighting, everything else has changed. If you look at Jamaica and you look at the various scenes, if you were to share them, people always look and say, is that Jamaica? And you say, yeah. I say, really? Yes. But as people, we don't tend to take the time to stop and look. It's like looking and seeing. Yeah? So we see a scene pass by it, we see it every day. But we've never really taken the time to stop and look at it. When you take an image, You're telling the person, say, listen, you've walked past this every day. Look at what it really is. Coming to any location and shooting it detaches you, it plugs you, it allows you to unplug from the hustle and bustle that we have to deal with as human beings every day. So I think the more I get to come out is the more I get to recharge. So that peace of mind I get to come out here to say, listen, you can't grind every day. Old people say, every day bucket I go out well, one day the bottom went over. You know that phrase, right? Yeah. The bottom will go drop out. Stop and take a look around. Let's look at what's really here. Landscape photographers, we all have a different outlook on landscape, on shooting landscape, right? But one thing we'll all tell you, every landscape photographer, one of the main things they have in common is shoot for yourself. And that means that you go there and you shoot the landscape for yourself, not particularly for anyone to love it or anyone to say, well, I think this is a wonderful shot. You treat landscape photography as going out to visit a friend. The landscape is your friend. And sharing time with that friend and coming back, and as you'd say, as some people would say, you go to visit somewhere and you want to show that you take a selfie to show that you were here. Landscape is your selfie, if you want to look at it like that. So it's not showing yourself, but showing the friend you were with. Whether it's photography or it's life, whatever you're doing, you're going to come across a lot of pushback. Regardless, whatever the setback is, if you feel in your heart that you need to be doing something, go out there and do it.